preparing to stream. We're live.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, good evening, everybody. It is lovely to be here as always. I'm going to quickly zoom around my screen just to get some introductions. Apologies, I need to leave around about 5 to 6, but as always, Matt, if ever I have to leave, always takes over and is beautiful. It's a safe pair of hands. So thanks very much, as always, Matt, in anticipation. So let me go around the screen as I see it. So first of all, if Simon, I can come to you, please.
Yep. Hello, my name's Simon Burch. I'm the co-owner of a public relations company called Penguin PR. We're based in Five Lamps in Derby.
Brilliant to see you tonight, Simon. Great. Yeah. Matt, how about you?
Hi, Amanda. Hi, everybody. Councillor Matthew Holmes from Mickleover Ward and Derby City Council.
Thank you very much. And the final but not least, Rachel, I'm going to come to you, but also if you could just tell us a bit about the amazing work that you do, Rachel, because I just think everybody would love to hear it. So, Rachel.
Oh, thank you, Amanda. My name's Rachel, and I founded Sam Superheroes, which is a local Mickleover charity, last year in memory of my little boy, 5-year-old boy Sam, who sadly died from a very rare reaction to a childhood virus. So we set up Sam Superheroes so we could give him a legacy, which would last forever. And basically we promote and we carry out animal assisted therapy by way of funding, for example, a horse activity programme for children, and we have our own therapy dog, and we also fund emotional wellbeing initiatives as well. So that's what we've been getting up to over the past 12 months.
Oh, I mean, it's absolutely fantastic, Rachel. I know our paths keep on crossing, but thank you sincerely for all the work that you do. It's just absolutely incredible. We'll probably come back a bit later as well, actually, and find out a little bit more, because I sit in terms of questions. But the first thing I just wanted to talk about is Simon, you and I, we were out on Saturday night. Well, we were together because I was with you, but we hadn't intentionally gone together. Really? And we went to the rather amazing book festival, which is happens in Derby every year, and then you have a couple of sort of side events that happen at different times of the year as well. And this was at the Quad, the amazing Quad. But you first of all, what did you think to the book festival, Simon? And then I'm going to come to everybody and talk about reading and what our favourite books are, because you posed a really interesting question. But over to you, Simon.
Yeah, it's the book festival was something I've been to as a punter probably about for the last 3 or 4 years. This year we helped them to spread the word. It's such an amazing event. I think it's not its profile should, in my opinion, should be a bit wider, because it's not so much about the books, it's about the stories within books. And I think we all kind of connect through stories. And I mean, for people who kind of weren't aware, this was the autumn edition, and they had 12 authors, all talking about their books, about the inspiration in conversation with an interviewer. And the event we were at that you referred to, Amanda, was the interview with Dan Walker from Strictly. But he's written a book called Standing on Their Shoulders, or I should know, shouldn't I? But it's about, as a journalist, the people who's inspired him, the people he's met during his work or during Strictly, and then just how they've inspired him. Because as a journalist, you only get a few minutes with someone, but he kind of makes a note and says, I really want to know about this person. So it was pretty much an hour, wasn't it, of him talking about the people who've really inspired him. And then we got to ask questions in the end. So even if you're not a massive reader, it's a great event because you come together with people who just want to know why authors do what they do. I think we're all fascinated with authors. I think we're certainly, as writers ourselves, we all think we've got a book in us. But it's only when you sit down and write and work out how to write when you realise quite how hard it is, and also quite how much time you spend on your own. So I think there's a bit of awe for these people. It's a lovely event. I mean, the actual standout author was a lady called Raina Wynn, who she's written 3 books about just going on walks with her husband. But it's all about their life, but also what they see. And as she was a sellout this year, it's something that has got like everything.
Oh, brilliant. Well, Simon, I'll come back to you because you did prompt a question that I know we talked about. But Matt, do you get much opportunity to read at all?
Mostly now audiobooks, to be honest, Amanda. With it's the only time I really be able to listening to a book on the move or whatever, I really like to listen to audiobooks on holiday, as opposed to the old-fashioned way. But yeah, I've always really been keen on reading. I really like sci-fi. So Ready Player One, Ready Player Two, of some more modern ones that I really, really enjoyed and highly recommend. The Time Ships by Stephen Baxter is a fantastic sequel to H.G. Wells' The Time Machine, authorized by the family. That's a fantastic read. And I'm also into 1940s, 50s sci-fi. Paul Anderson, he's fantastic. A really hard sci-fi from a long time ago, but it's so amazing. So that's the kind of thing that I read. But I also like autobiographies. Louis Theroux is something that I like reading. His books are great. So yeah, is the answer. But whereas when I was younger, it was actual books. Now it's more audio books, I would say.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I listen to audiobooks. In fact, I think I've got a Paul Anderson book though in my bookcase, because is it P-O-H-L how you spell the name, if I remember?
It's P-O-U-L.
P-O-U-L. Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Yeah, really hardcore old types science
fiction.
But
it's honestly, it's amazing. Some of the books are really amazing. Highly recommended.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to come back and get everybody's favourite book in a minute. But what about you, Rachel? Do you read at all?
I suppose my life is always separated into kind of pre-Sam and Sam dying. And I think since Sam died, I haven't really read that much, really, because my brain can't really take it in. But I think the books that really stand out for me, and one book that is just so ingrained in my heart, is the one by Charlie McCaskey, which is the fox, the mole, the boy, the mole, the fox and the horse. Now, I read that to Sam when he was in intensive care, and I cannot begin to tell you how much that meant to me. And it's almost, I felt like I was reading about Sam in that book, and that gave me so much comfort. It was all about kindness, it's all about love, it's all about home, it's all about small things in life. And I've actually been giving that book as presents to people now, and also to some of the children at school, because to me, it really got me through a really, really dark period. And I know that Sam would have absolutely loved that book. And I just felt it was just all about him. And yeah, I think, and apparently there's a film, they've done a film now of that book, and that's going to be on at Christmas. And they've also, I think, got another small book out, which is to work alongside the film as well. So whether I'll be able to get through that film without crying, I don't know. But I read extracts of that book out at Sam's funeral as well. It just sums up, you can use extracts of that book and any part in your life, and it just shows how powerful books are, yeah, absolutely loved that book.
Yeah, you and I were on the same. If I often buy that book as a gift to people, and without hesitation, people will always come back. And it's the giving of, I don't know, hope. It's the words. It's just absolutely beautiful. And if anybody is watching this and hasn't read the book, then pop it on your Christmas list, and hopefully somebody will buy it for you, because it's such a brilliant book, and the illustrations are beautiful as well. In fact, I've even had people have bought me little bits of the illustrations posters, and they're just it's just so incredibly, wonderfully inspiring. So one of the things that we were doing, and Simon, it was Simon, you actually prompted this, is Simon did a challenge in terms of books. Do you want to just tell us what the challenge was, Simon? And then I'm going to come round and see, we'll just maybe do one or two. But it was just really fascinating. What was the challenge that you did? Because you do read, I know that.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, a few years ago, lockdown, but it worked really well for lockdown. Myself and my business partner, Sarah, we decided we were going to read the top 100 Penguin modern classics, which is all those books on all the lists that people say you should always read before you die. We did it. Well, I did it. Sarah didn't. But yeah, so that was all of them, like Ulysses, War and Peace, Les Miserables, all the classics that everyone kind of either claims they haven't read or say, do you know what, I know I should do, but I'm never going to bother, or some try it. So yeah, we did that. I did that. With varying degrees of enjoyment.
I think it's so. I mean, I admire you for doing it, because I do like reading. I don't read enough. I absolutely admit, and I think it's one of the best gifts that we can give to young children, actually. Is the gift of reading. My daughter was reading to my granddaughter a book the other day about think it was A Donkey with Three Legs or something, I can't remember, but they were both in so loving the book. But Matt, have you read any of these top 100? And Simon, you can chip in with some of them, but I mean, I'm assuming there's got to be things like Great Expectation, which I do actually like as a book.
Yeah.
But you listen.
I'm sure I have, because you know, when I was doing the English O levels, Of Mice of Men, all of those classics were something that we had to not only read but obviously write essays on. Can't quite recall what my exam was based on, but so I will have done probably at school, at senior school. Probably, I must admit, probably not so much after school, but I do look on YouTube when I'm surfing for something to watch on YouTube. Quite often they have the top 10 books or the top 40 books of all time, and they may have it in genres, or they might just be general books. And one of them that I know, I think this is universally agreed to be an absolute classic, and it's more. I think the subject matter is more than what people think it is. Frankenstein by Mary Shelley.
Mm.
It's kind of, people think it's like a horror book or a sort of semi sci-fi book, but actually there's a lot of things in there that are social comment, and a lot more. It's a lot deeper than you would imagine with the Hollywood popularization of that story. So I would say probably Frankenstein by Mary Shelley will probably be in one of those lists every single time somebody says it. But that's an example of a great book that probably you have you probably got the wrong idea of, because you haven't actually read it, and it's very, very different to what you see on the Hollywood films.
Yes, I think Simon's going to come in. Yes, Simon, sorry.
No, Sarah knows more about this. I mean, Sarah had read it, I hadn't. And you're totally right. The big green monster with the bolts in it, it's not that at all. And it's a real shame. I think she was 19 when she read it, and it was in Victorian times. For a 19-year-old teenager to write what is an extraordinary book in incredible depth, like Matthew says, it is you can take it so many different ways. Whether at the time people were frightened of what science was doing, or people were frightened of, I mean, it's very much a social commentary. It's an extraordinary book, and it was one of those books where exactly you wouldn't have read it and you think, well, I know what Frankenstein's about. But actually, when you sit it down, it's actually Frankenstein is not, it's Frankenstein's monster. But yes, it's quite extraordinary. On a similar note, the one I would recommend to anyone is Perfume by Patrick Suskind. It's kind of the same, but it's based on the sense of smell, which is not something anyone has really ever talked about. But if anyone really, when you walk into like a place you've not been to and you're hit by the smell and all the emotion, it kind of taps into that. So they're very similar. But yeah, Matthew's right. It's definitely worth looking at and almost forgetting what you think you know about it.
And of course, when you read a book, it's about, it's a good book when you can't stop thinking about it for weeks after, and it's going around in your head and you're thinking of different things. That's a really good sign of a strong book, and that's something like Frankenstein and many other similar books. You won't stop thinking about it because it will really change. It wants to change you really as a person, if in some ways.
It does.
Rachel, what about you? Have you read any of the top 100? I wonder.
No, I'm probably a bit rubbish in fairness, and but I think when you've got a young child, you kind of literally just absorbed into. I can tell you children's books. I can tell you all the children's books, because I think that's all you end up reading when the toddlers, know. And
Rachel, what's your favourite ever book, just out of interest, that you've either read as even children's book?
Do you know what it is? It is In Your Blighton, Magic Faraway Tree.
Oh, brilliant.
That's mine. That's mine.
Love it,
Absolute moon face. I love that book.
Absolutely. And it was, again, that was on my next book to read to Sam, because I thought he was just at that age where he could do it. And my brother lives in America now, lives in Denver, and he's just read it to his kids over there. So what I did when Sam was in a coma, I got the book and thought, I am going to read it to him. And I think there's two books as well, isn't there? There's the first one and the second one.
Yeah.
So
Return to the Faraway Tree.
That's it. So I read both those books to him, and it took me back to my childhood, and I absolutely enjoyed it. So it's going to be on some of my friends' children's Christmas present list going to buy it to them because it was just, and as an adult, Matthew, have you read it as an adult? It's just amazing.
I've got them again. I don't know what actually it might have been my book from the loft, my mum and dad's house, and I think I gave it to my children. So I didn't reread it, but I passed it on, saying you've got to read this. But
yeah, and my friend, another friend, I'd actually read that to their children. They said they enjoyed it just as much as a child. It's just, it does not age, that book, and so I think reading that book has to be, and then Julia Donaldson, I think is fabulous as well. And yeah, they were some of our favourite books.
I mean, I totally agree around. I mean, my favourite book is The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, and I just want to read it. I just always, even now, when snow comes down, it's great big snow that's going down. My daughter will always phone me and say it's Narnia snow, and I always think of Mr. Tumnus, and I just think it's just such a brilliant book. And actually, talking about Enid Blyton, my mum was an avid reader. She loved Shakespeare. She actually really loved the Lewis Carroll, Alice in Wonderland, Alice Through the Looking Glass. But she used to, always on holiday, always take Famous Five. And she just read and read and read and read and read them. I mean, it's just the most fantastic of things, isn't it? To have, to be able to read. And it's why it's so important, I think, that we do read to our kids, but also encourage young kids to read. Simon and Matthew, did you say your favourite books before we move on? But Simon, what was your favourite book of all time?
Well, the Perfume's one of them. I think another one, which I was thinking about this, The Book Thief is a brilliant book.
Oh, yes.
It's fantastic. And yeah, I just think it blew me away, actually. It's not my favourite book, but I haven't, things change, don't they? It depends where you are in your life. But when you look back on one that you was really affecting, it's probably that. It's just a great concept.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be a member of a book club, but I used to have to pay someone to read it for me because I just never had time. But I think Book Thief was on there. But a book, I don't know if anybody's heard of the author Anya Seton, and a book that really impacted on me is a book called Catherine. I just love it. It's all about John of Gaunt and history and everything. And she also wrote one called Green Darkness that really, I just carried with me for weeks as I was reading it. It had that much of an impact. So it can have a really powerful impact. Matt, what's your favourite? I know you've mentioned sort of science fiction and everything.
I think it'd have to be The Faraway Tree, because I remember that being my first proper book that I read on my own. And I just look back on it, and it's probably not the best book I've ever read, but it has a place in my heart. And it's got to be The Faraway Tree, I think.
Brilliant. That's great. Thanks ever so much, guys. So just moving on. I've got 5 minutes, but I'm going to hand over to you, Matt. One of the things I'd just like to explore really is, Rachel, everything you talk about the work that you do, but I know we've met from a community point of view in any case, where we really want to try and just get out into the community and make community work together and everything. What is it? I know you're drivers really, but what is it that made you go down this route, particularly in terms of thinking about animal therapy and why it's so important?
I think it's a couple of reasons why I decided to go down kind of the animal therapeutic route for the charity. Is one, I wanted it to have Sam do something that had Sam at its heart. And the relationship that Sam and Daisy, our therapy dog, had was just phenomenal. They absolutely loved each other. They were joined at the hip. So that was something that was kind of placed there. So that got me thinking. Then when Sam was in intensive care in Nottingham at QMC, we had a fantastic bunch of consultants, and our lead consultant, they were letting us know, we were discussing Sam's care, and they said, Sam, we can now start opening up visitors to start coming in, which I thought, that's not great when they start doing that and start opening up those conversations. So I said, well, does that include Sam's dog, Daisy? And it was kind of just tongue in cheek, a bit of a dark moment. And he went, oh, is she well behaved? Oh, yeah. She got access to transport. And I went, she comes twice a day to see us, because my mum and sister were driving up twice a day to QMC, and they always booked Daisy with them. so Sam's dad and myself could have lunch in the car and have cuddles with Daisy, and she was just such a support. So anyway, the very next day he said to me, okay, it's all being signed off, and Daisy can come and see Sam. And we just thought she might be the magic bullet, you see. Anyway, we had her dressed in all her finery, so she was in proper high-vis vest and doggy vest and everything. So we were marching down the corridors, and Patrick said, just keep marching, Rachel, you know, look like you've always been doing it, even though it was all authorised. And we did. And he went, wow, when he saw me. He happened to be on the corridor, and he went, no one's going to stop you guys, are they, from coming in? And she just went into the room. She wasn't phased. She wasn't bothered. She wasn't bothered about all his ICU equipment, all his ventilator. And she hopped up on the bed next to Sam. And, you know, the room was full of the doctors and nurses as well, just watching, you know, and we got Sam's hand and we stroked Daisy. And yeah, you know, we thought maybe, you never know, it could be the magic bullet. But to have an ICU consultant of his calibre believing in animal therapies was quite phenomenal, I thought. And because they do have this magical power, and we just thought maybe it might stimulate something in Sam's brain. And so that element, that's where our proper therapy journey began, when Daisy visited Sam in hospital. And it just seemed, when I was thinking about the charity, I just thought it's a no-brainer. It's got to have Daisy at the centre of it for all these reasons. And because she is so calm, she is so placid, she's not fazed by noise, she's not fazed by strange smells, she was perfect. So, and the more I researched into animal-assisted therapy, particularly for children, and realised all these magical benefits that it brings. You know, you've got the psychological benefits, you've got the physiological benefits, you know, you've got all the kind of the hormones that it produces, you know, lowers blood pressure. It is quite magical. And it also, and it just, yeah, and that's why I kind of went down that route, because I thought, yeah, this is the route for me. I love animals. I know I was probably Daisy's first patient, if you call it a client, for me and Sam. And I know that without Daisy, I don't know if I would have survived the past 12 months, quite frankly. And it's an absolute honour to be able to kind of have children get some of those benefits, and some of the benefits that, you know, the feedback that we get from parents is phenomenal. And yeah, it helps from a selfish point of view. It helps me to survive this, but it also helps other people. And I get a lot of pleasure from that. It gives me a purpose in life, which, you know, Sam wasn't my only child. So I'm struggling to find a purpose, and this has given me a purpose, and it's got Sam at the heart. That's all I want. I love talking about my son. I love doing things for him, and it gets me through. So,
well, I love hearing you talk, Rachel, and the story. I've heard it before, and it just makes me feel so full of emotion and admiration for what you do, but also, oh, you know, what an amazing little boy I know Sam is from the stories that you've said, but also the love that animals give you. And you know, I don't know, Simon, have you worked with animals, or have you got any animals? I can see a penguin there in the background.
Yeah, no, it's very much doesn't do anything. No, I don't have a dog. I really like dogs. I haven't got the time to give to a dog. I don't want to leave it on its own and all that kind of stuff. So I totally get how amazing dogs are. I've never owned one. Had a succession of cats and hamsters as kids. There's just something about them. It's all unspoken, ironically. I know exactly where Rachel's talking about. We worked with a couple of charities locally that do animal therapy, and certainly with horses. And I certainly know from my family, kind of my mother-in-law, you know, has stables, and she can really talk quite deeply about the mental side of it, and how horses just get you, and how they can give you just that space of a place of just like a silent companion who is incredibly, in very unspoken ways, very empathetic with you. So yeah, I mean, when you see horse people with horses, they're just in a totally different relationship that's totally unhuman. But it is really amazing. I mean, those horses, they vaguely terrify me. But when you see them with someone who really, really gets them, it's lovely. And bearing in mind, these are animals we've shared our existence with for about tens of thousands of years. You can definitely get there. We're tuned into them, they're tuned into us. So yeah, I think in the future, I'd like a dog. I think it's just that kind of that companionship. But it's so it's so unasking. I think, you know, as long as you feed them and look after them, and the dog certainly looks after you back, there's no two ways about it.
Oh, absolutely. Rachel, I don't know whether you want to come back in on that, but before you do, I'm going to actually hand over to Matt, because I do have to go now, Matt. But I've been very privileged to work with animals. I mean, I have in my house at the moment 4 dogs. And because my daughter's brought 2 with her, and the love that you get is just absolutely incredible. And I can honestly say, I mean, you know, when I was young, growing up, it was quite difficult. And Sue, my dog, was my best friend. She used to sleep with me, and I used to hold her and feel that love that you just is. They never demand anything back. It's just, they just give you so much love. So I get it completely. I'm going all goosebumpy again because it's just so important. Guys, thank you so much. I'm sorry I have to go. Matt, I am going to hand over to you, and
No problem.
I'll put it in forwards. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, Amanda.
Hey, Amanda.
Cheers.
See you later. So Amanda's right there. I mean, I think that animals, especially domesticated animals, will give you unconditional love. You know, if you treat them with respect and as part of the family, then they really just will love you. And that's something which is wonderful to have in your life. It's awful when you have to say goodbye to them, obviously, but it's the time that you spend with them is really positive. I mean, I've got a cat. She's very timid, very lovely, but she's getting a little bit old now and she needs looking after. But, you know, just a wonderful animal, really, that relies on you, and you, in some ways, you rely on them. So elephants as well. I mean, the large mammals, obviously not domesticated, but very intelligent creatures that have an affinity to humans. I saw a video recently where someone was helping an elephant who was trapped, a baby elephant who was trapped in the mud. And it actually, you could see it thanking the person for helping them. You know, there is that connection. But can I ask you, Sarah, because what's the difference between an assistance dog and a therapy dog? What's the key?
Yeah, I had to research this prior to doing some superheroes. So an assistance dog has a legal standing in the UK. So they are legally allowed to go anywhere, basically. And they have to be trained to a certain standard. Whereas a therapy dog doesn't have any legal standing, and there's no regulatory body or there's no kind of governing body. So I'm an internal auditor, so we've got a chartership, but there's nothing like that for a therapy dog. So it is actually an unregulated space. But what you find is charities such as Pets of Therapy, who's a big national charity, they have a system of where they have volunteers using their dogs to go and visit hospitals and places of organisations. But they have their own assessment process. So you go for an assessment, because we got assessed through Pets of Therapy initially. And then you're registered to carry out visits on behalf of Pets of Therapy. But it's all done, the organisation has to agree to it. So you've got no legal standing to visit somewhere with a therapy dog. It's just whether or not that organisation allows you to, basically.
Yeah. Would you like to see that change? Do you think there'll be any benefits with seeing therapy dogs given the same status as assistance dogs?
I definitely think the space would benefit from being regulated a lot more. And you probably, because I'm actually because you could just get, you know, you just do an assessment, you rock up with your own dog and get an assessment, and technically, you know, do other organisations do the due diligence to make sure that dog is safe to work with them. You know, you've got that whole raft of things behind it, and also it's kind of the welfare of the dog as well. So I'm actually doing a certification programme with a company called PAWS, who is People, Animals, Wellbeing Services. So it's online and it's digitised, but it goes through the history of therapy dogs, because therapy dogs goes all the way back to to early 1800s with Florence Nightingale. So when she was in a hospital, she first saw the benefits of animal-assisted therapies, then Freud saw it, then another psychotherapist. So it's got a really, really long history. And not a lot of people know that. But also because, you know, when you go to kind of the national charities, you know, Daisy's well-being is at the centre of all our work. So when I'm becoming certified, I'm learning all about dog body language, you know, what happens if, how do I spot if Daisy's unhappy in her work, you know, making sure she's got frequent breaks, and learning all about her welfare within my work as well. So that's the benefits of me doing this certification program, and it offers you that support with risk assessments, it offers you support with insurance, because of that whole raft when you're working as a therapy dog handler, you've got all the other kind of admin stuff, health and safety. So yeah, to me, that space would benefit from being regulated to make sure that all our therapy dogs are all, welfare is all ticked, and also they've got right risk assessments in place, you've got policies in place, you've got the appropriate insurance in place. It can only help, you know, it doesn't need to be heavily regulated, but at least have a professional body.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's something you can explore with Amanda as well, and have a discussion moving forward. Staying with animals, but changing the subject slightly, Simon, why Penguin PR? What's behind the name?
I wish we had an amazing story, Matthew. When we were setting up the company, Sarah and I, who we both worked as journalists at Derby Telegraph, but we decided we wanted to go into business together. We both realised we wanted something visual. People think in pictures and they remember in pictures, so we didn't want to use our names. So we thought, well, we had loads of different ideas, and then Sarah was reading a book, ironically, to her daughter, and it had a penguin on it. And she said, well, why not Penguin PR? And I wasn't massively struck really, but we looked, and then we made sure that there was a website, a URL free, and we said, well, we'll go for that. And so by backfilling it, we kind of realised that everyone really likes penguins, and they're kind of very collaborative birds, and they're not very scary unless you really hate birds. But yeah, everyone really likes them. So there isn't a massive story. It's just that the main thing is we just wanted something that, sorry, that's my phone. We just wanted something that people would remember and would stick out. So yeah, Penguin it is. And 12 years later, it works really well for us.
I think it's a story I hear time and time again now. You can think of a name for your company or your organisation, but you have to check that the website's available, and the domain name. You can think of a killer name, and then all of a sudden, oh, I can't use that. It's already been taken.
There was a Penguin PR in San Francisco, so they had .com. So we had .co.uk. So yeah, but it was that. It's quite unsexy, really, but yeah, it works.
No, it's great. So 12 years ago, then you went from being local journalists then, or was this
pretty much? Sarah was working on Derbyshire magazine, a glossy magazine. I'd actually stepped out of journalism, so I'd worked at Derby Telegraph, and I'd done a little bit on teletext actually in London a long time ago.
Blimey, it is a long time ago.
I know, totally dates me, but yeah, it was amazing. I was working in Fulham and just writing about 70 words per page. So we'd done that, and then I'd worked at an agency in Derby, and then I just realised I wanted to do it for myself. So instead of writing kind of stories for the paper, we ended up writing them for organisations, for companies and charities and schools, in order to get them into the paper that we once worked on. So that's how it started, and we that's pretty much how it continues actually. But we do kind of send stories to radio and TV and stuff like that. So yeah,
so it's
for hire.
Sorry. Oh, just to say, so obviously there's elements of what you were doing before, you know, as a journalist for an organisation, a newspaper or a magazine, and obviously now within a PR agency. Do you miss those days, or I mean, has journalism changed a great deal? Have you seen it change? Are you glad that you're now working in the sphere that you are now, rather than it be, you know, local reporting or sending copy about? You know, it seems to me that things have shifted quite a lot from the old traditional style of reporting that, you know, it was in print all the time, and now online, and it's almost you have to be a little more snappy. There's a little bit of clickbait in there about headlines and stories. Do you miss that, or have you seen a transition away from what you were doing before? Do you think you'd still be enjoying it now if you're still in that area?
It's changed hugely. One of my last roles at the Derby Telegraph was this digital editor role, which no one had ever done before. And I realised that it wasn't necessarily for me, because they hadn't really got an idea of what they were looking to achieve. Yes, I think, well, it is a great job. You meet everybody. You meet, you know, interviewed kind of prisoners in prison, and the next day I interviewed, like, you know, like the Duchess of Devonshire as was. You meet so many people from right across society. It's great, famous people, people with a story to tell. It's a wonderful people industry. I do miss some of it. I do, when something big is going on in the city and you know that someone's gone down there and they have to get the story, you miss that buzz of a big event. You miss being the voice of the city. Certainly, you know, like when the radio's there and something big goes on, you bring people in the city to talk to city people. So I do miss that side of it. Actually, from a business point of view, I think PR's very important now. I mean, it is a bit spin doctory. You do tend to have to use pretty much every trick in the book to make someone's marketing message a story, which doesn't sometimes work, doesn't always work, but you always get the coverage that deserves. A lot of the times, and Rachel will know this, a lot of the work we do, we work with Rachel, and my colleague Sarah has worked with Rachel to bring Sam's story to light, and that is it's incredibly rewarding doing that. That's pretty much what all of us went into journalism for, and to give someone like Rachel or other charities work with that kind of understanding of what their story is, and to get them the headlines such that they can then kind of, you know, talk about their cause on a bigger platform. That's incredibly rewarding, because it is scary, and I think a lot of the problem is it's like me asking you about your life. Where would you start? What is the story of your life? Well, I was born in this, and it's not necessarily always the right way to tell it. It's working out with someone. How do you tell what your story is in a way that will instantly engage people and with a very human interest point of view? So it is sifting through all these lots of facts and lots of stories to get that one unified narrative that we can then use out, and then we'll get people to listen and to engage and to understand what you stand for. So I really enjoy that. I really enjoy onboarding new clients when it's fresh, they've never done it before, they're terrified about people talking to them, they don't know what they're going to say, and they think they're going to sound stupid. But when you work with them, and when you really, I'm a great believer when you go on radio and say, Rachel may have done this, you kind of think you really are going to be dreadful. But actually, if you're talking about something you're passionate about and you've got your story straight, then it's an incredibly self-affirming process talking about yourself. So we pretty much just give people the opportunity to say, this is what you stand for, this is the kind of story they're going to be interested in. Pretty much off you go. So yeah, we do like that bit.
And you do it very well. So Rachel, what's next for Sam's Superheroes then?
Oh, so what we've got next, so we've got a couple of exciting, well, we're going to be developing the therapy dog side of our work. So potentially we're going to be doing a pilot at the Lighthouse in Derby with the children there. We're still trying to get registered. It's a really difficult process, challenging process, but I'm determined to do it. We've already got it knocked back once. So now we're reapplying again. So there's just small improvements there. We've got a project with a company, it's a CIC called Questar. So you probably know about this, Matt, because Derby City is involved in it. So they do interactive trails. So we're going to pilot an interactive trail on Vicarage Park for children, which will have some kind of encourage kids to get outside, encourage them to be active, and it'll be really fun as well. So we did kind of a bit of a pilot this year in March on Mickleover Meadows, where we had a treasure hunt where we hid stones, and that proved really successful. So this will be on for a longer period of time over February half term. So, and then if that proves successful, we're going to do a bespoke Some Superheroes treasure trail. So we've got that on the books. I've got a trainee therapy dog called Star, who's a working Cocker Spaniel. So we're currently working with a dog trainer called Karma Companions to train her up. Totally different to Daisy, full of love, but full of energy as well. So we just need to contain that energy because she's got all the love there, and she just loves people. She loves licking people. So, and then we've also sponsoring an app for a permanent orienteering trail at Mickleover Meadows. So Sam Superhero said we'd love to sponsor that because it's a family orienteering map. Again, it kind of lives to Sam's values. Sam's values are our values. So it's outdoors, it's nature, it's family, it's getting kids outdoors. So we're sponsoring an app for them. And we're doing, joining up with Derby Secret Santa, we've got a couple of poster box for them, so we sponsored them. And we are working with, or we're trying to partner with the Norse Institute in America, or we do support them. So Sam had what we call a new onset refractory status epilepticus, and FIRES specifically, which is febrile infection-related epilepsy syndrome, is a subcategory of NORS. Now, it affects only 1 in a million people. So what we're doing, there's a NORS Institute in America. The lady set it up. It's got a trial at Yale Medical School. She's got a whole load of physicians on it. And basically, they're just researching. And it's also a bit of a centre of excellence for NORS. So we are kind of direct people to their website. We've been able to direct a few families catastrophically whose children have got FIRES onto NORA, and we attend conferences and things like that. So they like families to input into research because they feel we know so much about this because we've lived through it. So they really like family input. So I input into that and just generally raise awareness of what Sam had and FIRES, and just to hopefully do a little bit of good. So, you know, our real main aim is really developing Daisy and developing Star. So, and also we want to be able to have some volunteers working for Sam Superheroes. So that's our real aim. And then we can widen up our scope of work so we can help more people and get them to experience those magical qualities of animals. And summer horse activity programs is really key, which is what we funded in the summer. So we want to do, and picking up and kind of what you said, Simon, about horses, they can go even further than dogs in connecting with people. So we sponsored a 1-hour summer activity program over the course of the summer with Scropton Riding for the Disabled. So we really want to further that work with the horses as well, because it proved really successful.
You're doing so much, and you know, I've known you for a little while now, and it's probably longer than we think, isn't it? With COVID and everything in between, it was just a bit of a blur, really. But it's incredible the work that you're doing and how much you're taking on. It's you're a real inspiration, and it's great that actually that you are helping those people that on a very rare condition that may be quite hard to find support for. So that side of it is fantastic in terms of you can really help others who are unfortunately in that situation. So Simon, we are drawing to a close, but what's next for Penguin PR?
Well, domination. What else?
Well, fair enough.
We're just carrying on. There's 7 of us now. We're getting busy. The one thing about the way journalism is contracting, it's contracting at the same time as the number of platforms has absolutely just gone boom. So we are just, steadily picking up clients, telling their stories, filling their social media with quality content that will engage and will spread their story. So yeah, digital stuff, video stuff, all that kind of side of it, that's where we're moving towards. Still writing, still looking for human interest, but just spreading ourselves as much as we can across all the different platforms.
And I suppose it's really important to be up on everything that comes along. I know that there's been a bit of a hoo-ha, shall we say, about Twitter with Elon Musk taking over. And there's another platform that I wasn't aware of that some people are moving over to. And it just shows you there's so many different platforms, and it may fall by the wayside, it may gain traction, and you have to be on the ball, don't you, in terms of all these different platforms and how they key into someone's marketing campaign. So I'm sure it's always shifting sands, and you have to always be at the forefront of everything that's going on. So it can't be easy, but it sounds like you're doing a fantastic job, and good luck to you in the future. And I'm sure Amanda will invite you back. So drawing to a close, this is traditional. If Amanda was here, she'd say this, words of wisdom. You don't have to think of anything mind-blowing. It could be very simple, and hopefully I won't steal any of your two's words of wisdom, but actually I will just go back to the first discussion that we had about books. So I suppose it'd be more like, why not, kind of, rather than words of wisdom. Why don't you get on to a website or Google and just type in the top 10 books of all time, or the top 100 books of all time, and maybe just dive in and randomly pick one and just go to the library or download it online or whatever you do and read it. Get the audiobook of it and see if you enjoy it. Maybe that's my words of wisdom. It's more like a suggestion, really. What's yours, Simon?
Mine is from a book from the 100. So it's a book called Sweet Francais, and it was written by Irene Nemirovsky, which I had to Google because I couldn't remember. But it was written at a time in occupied France, and it told the story of a French village when the Germans came and occupied it. And it was all the tittle-tattle in amongst everybody, and people were accusing neighbours of selling out, all that kind of stuff. My point is that the good thing about what 100 books told me was the themes that people wrote about 50 years, 100 years ago. What's amazing about the books are how they are still very, very modern day. And that's probably the biggest lesson, was even something like War and Peace, which is a massive book, but it's brilliant because there was so much in there saying, do you know what, that could have been written yesterday. What I really like, and it's quite cynical what she said actually, but it's a quote that probably someone else has said. One of the big things was within the village was that people were going out of their way to show that they were better French people than everyone else. And they were criticizing other people who maybe dallianced with the Germans. And there was a lot of kind of one-upmanship about how patriotic you were. And one of her, and this is very much today when people go on, go on Twitter and they call on people, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, you're not a very good citizen. And one thing she said was, everybody believes in sacrifice as long as it's somebody else's, which is really, really wise. And well, written during the war, 70, 80 years on, I think probably that's something we should all keep an eye on.
Absolutely. So, Rachel.
Oh, crikey. So I suppose one of the things I think would be really just worth calling out is what I've experienced is that when you're going through a really challenging time in life, many people will just say, you know where I am if you need anything. And I think one thing I've learned is being through really in dark times is someone who's going through a really dark time won't reach out. So instead of just saying, contact me, you know where I am if I need you, I find that quite superficial sometimes. I would just encourage people to reach out to them, physically send them a text, drop them a message. Don't just say, you know where I am when I need you. You know, actions speak louder than words. And I think hopefully just saying that just might jot someone, if you haven't heard from someone for a while and they are going through a difficult time for whatever reason, just try reaching out to them, because you never know, they might just need it.
Absolutely. So on that, we'll call it a day. We're a little bit running over time, but it's been an absolutely fantastic discussion. I've really enjoyed it. And I'm sure that Amanda will be inviting you back sometime soon to do it all over again. So Simon, Rachel, thank you very much. We'll leave it there and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.